I had all different kinds of cauldrons. I had different just witchy regalia. I didn't have like an athame or anything that was pertaining to Wicca. But I did have quite a few occultic items. Like incense and incense burners and things like that I was just obsessed with. So after I got into Wicca, I began my collection of my tools.
And there is this folklore about this Jersey devil that haunts this forest. So when I learned about Hearn, and that he was a spirit that haunted a forest that got elevated up to a deity in some instances in certain circles of witchcraft, I instantly thought of the Jersey Devil. So it appealed to me to actually elevate the Jersey Devil and to start approaching the Jersey Devil as more than just a local.
And they sent it to me. They also sent me some other information, which they sounded like they did know about me, but they told me some like really interesting stuff that I wouldn't have thought everyone would get. And found it bizarre. So I started to delve into astrology from that point, and that was about 2011. And after I'd done that,
VHSs and VCR players. So I put in a blank VHS tape. I just told my age. And hit the record button. And recorded the whole thing about tarot cards. I had to hide it after I did it. And then I kept feeling like I was different. Like,
from there, my trip down the pagan path, I knew I wasn't Christian, and I didn't really know what I was. I didn't really need a label because I wasn't really a label type of person. But strangely enough, when I look back now, when I was a young child at the Catholic school, when our schools used to play witches and fairies, guess who was always putting their hand up to be the witch?
I didn't really actively search for anything, but I had my own opinions on things. It did not sit well with me, the concept of help. I never believed that. I never thought that if there's this divine being that loves you unconditionally, that then they're going to say, oh, no, you didn't do what I asked of you, so no.
The church, so she's what Finns called like habitarian. So I was forced to go to this Habitarian confirmation camp, and it was fine since I went with my best friends, and you know. But you need to understand that coming from this household where we never talked about religions, but we did talk a lot about politics and like human rights and stuff like that.
There's the crazy one. He heard the little wren. He can't catch it. They're a lot faster than he is. Anyway, I feel as though I have been pagan for quite some time. Being born and raised in the South, in a small town in the South, you know, everyone's Christian. Everything around you is Christian. So I tried that, and I tried to make it make sense for me, but it never did.
How that part of my life has worked into my religious and spiritual life as a pagan. So, my childhood, I was raised Unitarian Universalist, basically, without being part of a congregation. My mother describes herself as a Buddhist Methodist, and my father spent time out studying with the Hopi, and
a desire to learn. And I didn't discover Wicca or paganism until I was about 13. And Wicca is how I discovered paganism. I discovered it through Wicca. And actually I discovered it because a friend of mine had suggested a teen fiction series, like a young adult fiction series called Sweep, which had just come out recently at the time. I think 2001. Learning witchcraft when she was pregnant with me, so I got started really early. I started doing my own thing kind of when I was about really young, like 10 or 11, but it was really intuitive. It wasn't anything really ritualistic or structured in any way. I started reading books and everything, devouring anything I could get my hands on.
To change the stereotype that, you know, a witch is someone with green skin and warts who cackles and flies around on a broom and is an old lady, an ugly old lady. I might be bordering on an old lady, but I like to think that I'm not so ugly. And while I did play the Wicked Witch on stage once for The Wizard of Oz, my skin is generally not green.
I don't know what struck a chord in me as a 5-year-old that I just automatically dismissed that religion completely, but I did. And I can't say that I'm not the better for it, but just in my life at that time, I guess it shaped the path of my...
And some other YouTubers and some blogs, and start to discover what people meant by traditional witchcraft. I didn't agree with that term at first because I believed traditional witchcraft to be like ultra secret covens of traditional witches, and I didn't buy that. But when I started to understand,
when we talked about like the Greek gods and the Greek deities, I always wondered, like, well, where did they go? They're like, oh, they're dead. And of course the answer where I come from was like, well, you know, they were evil and God took them. And that was kind of the feel that I was always given. But I always thought, you know, my mind was like, they've got to be still around. And then, of course, being the good little Christian girl I was, I did go to church camp every summer. I loved it. I still have very fond memories of church camp.
Yeah, I know. I shouldn't have. I did. It was me time. You know, after Christmas, my kids, my grandkids. Yeah, it was time for me. So I did. I did order me several books. Oddly, things are coming in shipments. Yes, there's an S on there. I shouldn't have bought. But I did. Anyway, back to the story.
And I can honestly say that when I left that building that day, I was not the same person that I was when I walked in. I ended up having a reading with Patricia, and it was the first time I'd had a reading, and everything unfolded after I had that reading. I remember going to work a few weeks later and talking to this guy, and, you know, talking to him, and he
almost 13 at that point of time, and if I had to point out the one defining moment or thing that led me to the past, I think I would have to say it would be the 96 movie The Craft. As in, I watched it several years later, obviously, but anyway, I think that would be the movie that sort of was the watershed for me.
I was like in middle school. We basically stopped trying to find a church. So that was really the time where I started looking for different ways to figure out my spirituality. And I was trying to remember who told who. But in 6th grade, me and my friend actually found some witchy books. And I can't remember if she found them or if I found them. Most likely I found them, I just want to say that.
A woman we worked with there, you know, she was openly Wiccan and everything and stuff. You know, you couldn't tell by looking at her, but, you know, she'd bring her books and stuff and read and all that stuff. And then my husband told me about it and everything, and we are still really good friends to this day. But that's kind of when he figured it out.
And at the time I lived with my parents and my brother, and I had told my brother I was reading a book about paganism, and wildfire. It spread fast. The next day I was approached and was asked, do you know where your Bible is? You know, don't you know pagans are evil and bad, and, you know, they worship creation instead of the creator, etc. We've all heard it. And so yeah, I've been out forever.
And I love this because it's a dog, and I love dogs. I love unconditional love, and it's like someone's turning themselves upside down here. It's time to view things from a different perspective. You have a blessed gift to see past the current situation and envision amazing possibilities. Don't worry, the pause in momentum, I like that. It says pause, but I was thinking pause because of the dog. In momentum while you rethink your plan won't last. Embrace your uniqueness and allow it to serve you.
That is that. This was basically just a vloggy type thing. But I'm going to take you along on my day today. So, see you soon. I should probably show you my hair. Like, look how funny this looks. Ready? Oh. Like, I wish the rest of my hair was this long. Because then I could probably do something. Alright, we're going to put that back in there. Anyway.
The hem brand. It's going to be backwards, whatever. So, I actually really like this brand of incense. They do really great smelling incenses and they really work. I've only tried a certain few, like the cedar and the pine. The pine is amazing. It smells just like it, and I've just ran out and they didn't have any more lately, like, so I was sad. And these were the last two cedar, so I'm like, mine!
Like, for different herbs, even some recipes on like making your own incense, which is cool. And it kind of goes on to, it gives you some like signs and symbols, including like runes, just like a really good overview. And probably the best part about this book, in my opinion, is he has a suggested reading section.